Millionaire brings Maid to ex-wife's wedding, and her actions surprise everyone. Join us for an unforgettable tale that unfolds at a wedding filled with unexpected twists and turns. Our captivating story begins as a self-made millionaire arrives at his ex-wife's wedding. He doesn't come alone. Accompanying him is his loyal maid, who quickly becomes the center of attention with her unexpected actions.
Everyone. Michael Carter is a millionaire used to having the world at his feet, but this time he was staring at a wedding invitation from his ex-fiancée, Stella, to another man. The pain of loss was great, but as always, Michael refused to show any weakness. He needed a plan to show everyone, especially Stella, that he didn't care. Suddenly, he noticed Chloe, his maid, who was organizing papers in the room. Chloe was young, beautiful, and had a genuine air that could work perfectly for his plan. "Chloe, come here," he said in an authoritative tone. Chloe hesitated, but put down what she was doing and approached. "Do you need something, Mr. Carter?" she asked, as polite as ever. "Yes, I need you to accompany me to an event. It's personal." The proposal sounded absurd. Chloe looked at him with a mix of surprise and confusion. "Mr. Carter, I'm your maid, not an escort." Michael let out a brief laugh, as if her reaction was predictable. "I'm not asking, Chloe. I'm offering an opportunity. You'll be well paid for this. All you need to do is accompany me, look stunning, and engage in minimal conversation." Chloe felt a lump in her throat. As offensive as the idea was, the amount Michael suggested was irresistible. Having worked for him for almost 2 years, she knew how to handle his authoritative manner, but never expected something like this. She thought about her accumulating bills and the course she wanted to start. "Why me?" she dared to ask. Michael gave her a direct look. "Because you're simple, discreet, and," he hesitated for a moment, "different from everyone who'll be there." The answer sounded like an insult masked as a compliment, but Chloe swallowed her pride. "All right, I'll do it," she said after a pause. "But just for one night." Michael smiled, satisfied. "Excellent. We have a lot of work to do." As Chloe left the room, a doubt filled her mind. What consequences would come from accepting this deal with such an unpredictable man? The next morning, Chloe barely had time to process what she had agreed to. Michael had already taken control of the situation. A luxury car arrived at her door to pick her up, taking her directly to a sophisticated boutique in the city center. As soon as she entered, she was greeted by a stylist who seemed as intimidating as Michael. "Miss Chloe, we're going to transform you," announced the woman, with a critical look. As attendants brought dresses, shoes, and accessories, Chloe felt like she was on a transformation reality show. Each piece chosen seemed a reminder of how distant Michael's world was from hers. She tried to refuse the high heels she could barely balance on, but was ignored. Michael arrived shortly after, analyzing everything with a critical eye. "She needs to look sophisticated, but not artificial," he declared, while the stylist nodded. Chloe crossed her arms, uncomfortable. "Maybe I could choose something that makes me feel comfortable?" "Comfortable?" Michael let out a short laugh. "This isn't about comfort, Chloe. It's about impressing." The response made her blood boil, but Chloe knew there was no point in arguing. Accepting this deal meant playing by his rules, at least for now. After hours of adjustments and trials, Michael finally approved an elegant black dress that highlighted Chloe's natural beauty. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman reflected. For a brief moment, she felt powerful. "Now this is it," Michael said, examining her as if she were a completed work of art. "All this seems a bit exaggerated," Chloe commented, hesitant. Michael turned to her, eyes fixed. "Stella can't have any doubt that you're my choice." The name of the ex-fiancé hung in the air as a silent reminder of the reason for all this. The next day, Michael hired an etiquette specialist to train Chloe to act like someone from high society. For hours, she was instructed on how to walk, smile, and even hold a champagne glass. The effort exhausted her but also irritated her. "I can hold a glass without help," she protested. After dropping one for the 3rd time, Michael, observing from a distance, just shook his head. "You're here to impress, not to be average." Chloe took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "And why is all this so important to you, Michael? You already have everything: money, power, respect." For a moment he seemed disconcerted by the question, but soon regained his impassive expression. "Some things can't be bought, Chloe. Let's just say this is personal." The answer didn't convince her, but she decided not to push further. It was clear there was more to the story than he was letting on. On the night before the wedding, Michael showed up with a more serious expression than usual. "Tomorrow, all eyes will be on us. Leave no room for doubts or mistakes." Chloe stared at him, exhausted from the constant training and endless demands. "Michael, why does this matter so much to you? Stella is just your ex." He gave a cold smile. "Stella isn't just my ex. She's the only person who challenged me and thought she could replace me." Chloe realized that behind Michael's confident facade were insecurities he worked hard to hide. This wasn't just about Stella. It was about wounded pride, control, and the need to prove no one could surpass him. "So this is all just about stroking your ego?" she asked, challenging him. Michael narrowed his eyes. "I don't expect you to understand, Chloe. Just stick to the plan." The tension between them was palpable, but Chloe chose not to prolong the argument. She knew that whatever happened, her patience was about to be tested like never before. On the morning of the wedding, Chloe got ready with the help of a team Michael had hired. Her hair was flawless, her makeup perfect, and the dress, it looked like something out of a fairy tale. When she saw herself in the mirror, for a moment, she forgot everything. The plan, Michael, Stella. She felt different, confident. Michael found her just before they left. He was dressed in an impeccable suit, and for the first time, Chloe noticed that, despite his unbearable personality, he was striking. "You look adequate," he said, trying to sound indifferent, though Chloe caught the faint smile on his lips. "Thanks, I think," she replied with a touch of sarcasm. In the car on the way to the wedding, silence filled the space between them. Chloe tried to hide the nervousness she felt. She about to step into a world that wasn't hers, next to a man who seemed incapable of feeling anything genuine. When they arrived at the venue, Michael looked at her one last time before stepping out of the car. "Remember, Chloe, today, you're my partner. Act like you were born for this." She took a deep breath, meeting his gaze. "I don't need to act, Michael. I just need to survive this." As soon as Chloe stepped out of the car, whispers began. All eyes at the wedding were on her and Michael. The elegant black dress that hugged her curves and the confident posture she had practiced for hours seemed to work. Michael walked beside her with the same air of superiority he carried everywhere. But this time, there was something more: pride. Chloe quickly realized she was in unfamiliar territory. The guests were a mix of powerful businessmen, socialites, and a few minor celebrities. Stella, the bride, stood in the distance, laughing with a group of friends. Chloe felt a tightness in her chest. It wasn't fear, but a sense of being out of place, surrounded by people who lived in a completely different reality. "Don't let anyone intimidate you," Michael whispered in her ear, as if reading her thoughts. Chloe kept her head high as they walked toward the reception. Soon, they were approached by an older man with a broad smile. "Michael, I didn't expect to see you here, and with such a charming companion." Michael shook the man's hand. "Of course I came, George. After all, Stella and I have history." The comment made Chloe raise an eyebrow, but she stayed silent, forcing a polite smile. As dinner began, Chloe noticed that Michael was incredibly skilled at maintaining shallow conversations while exuding an air of superiority. She, on the other hand, did her best to keep up. At one point, Stella finally approached them, her smile as sharp as her gleaming white dress. "Michael, what a surprise!" She looked Chloe up and down. "And who's your friend?" Before Michael could respond, Chloe extended her hand. "Chloe, it's a pleasure to meet you, Stella." The bride seemed surprised by Chloe's confidence, but shook her hand. "The pleasure is mine. I didn't expect Michael to bring someone so charming." Clearly irritated by Stella's tone, Michael interrupted. "Chloe has been an amazing companion. She understands me in ways few people ever could." Stella narrowed her eyes, studying Chloe as if searching for cracks in her polished demeanor. "How interesting. We should talk later, Chloe. I'd love to get to know more about you." Chloe nodded, but she knew that invitation wasn't as innocent as it seemed. As the night went on, Chloe felt more and more out of place. There were whispers, glances, and some women clearly mocking her behind her back. She tried to focus on the promise she had made to herself: get through the night and leave with her dignity intact. During the dance, Michael approached and extended his hand. "You're doing well. Now we need to dance." Dance? I don't. She hesitated, but he was already pulling her onto the floor. Trust me, he said, holding her hand firmly. To her surprise, Michael danced with elegance, guiding her as if it were second nature. Chloe stumbled a few times, but soon found the rhythm. During the dance, she felt his eyes fixed on hers, and for a moment, she forgot everything around her. You're doing better than I expected, Michael commented, breaking the silence. Chloe laughed, trying to hide her nervousness. And you dance better than I imagined. Their exchange was interrupted when Stella approached. Michael, may I steal your date for a moment? Michael seemed to hesitate but nodded. Sure, but don't take too long. Chloe followed Stella to a more secluded corner. The bride had a calculated smile, and Chloe knew the moment of truth had arrived. So Chloe, Stella began, crossing her arms. What's your story? Where did Michael find you? Sorry, I don't understand the question, Chloe responded, staying calm. Oh, you understand. Stella stepped closer. He's always been good at choosing pieces on the board. You seem convenient. Chloe felt her blood boil but didn't show it. I think Michael should answer for his choices. The direct response surprised Stella, who laughed softly. Well, he always liked challenges. Good luck, dear. Chloe returned to the table feeling uneasy, but tried to hide it. Michael immediately noticed something was wrong. What did Stella say? He asked, looking concerned. Nothing I couldn't handle, Chloe replied, not giving details. Later, during the speeches, Chloe noticed that Michael was uncomfortable. While everyone praised Stella and her new husband, he seemed distant, his jaw tense. When their eyes met, Chloe gave a small smile, trying to lighten the moment. Michael looked away but seemed less rigid. Let's play a game with those who only read the comments. Type chocolate in the comments. Only those who get this far will understand. Now let's continue with the story. When the event finally ended, Michael and Chloe said goodbye to the guests. On the way to the car, he finally broke the silence. You did better than I expected. Thanks, I think, Chloe replied. No, I mean it. You. He hesitated, as if not knowing how to finish the sentence. You were perfect. Chloe didn't know how to respond but felt a strange warmth in her chest. Despite all of Michael's arrogance and control, there were moments like that which made her question who he really was. But before she could think more about it, she knew something had changed that night, and the consequences were just beginning. Chloe woke up the next day, still absorbing the events of the wedding. The night had been a whirlwind of emotions, and although she had managed to impress, there was something unsettling about Michael's behavior. He seemed to be stuck in a cycle of pride and insecurity that made him unstable, especially when Stella was around. Michael, for his part, wasted no time getting back to his routine. That morning, he was already in a meeting with potential investors. However, the whispers about his appearance with Chloe at the wedding spread quickly. Some guests, especially close friends of Stella, questioned who that woman was. Stella, seizing the opportunity, started to fuel the rumors. In a conversation with an influential investor, she hinted that Chloe might be more than she appeared. Michael has always had a peculiar taste for allies. Is she there on merit or convenience? She said, with a malicious tone. The rumor grew, and it wasn't long before one of the investors approached Michael directly during a lunch. Your date at the wedding? Chloe, right? She seems very determined. Something tells me she has ambitions beyond you. Michael, already irritated by Stella's provocations, felt the comment hit his pride. He knew Chloe wasn't a threat, but his own insecurity, combined with what he had heard that morning, made him overreact. That afternoon, Chloe was called into Michael's office. As soon as she entered, she sensed the tense atmosphere. He was sitting behind his desk, eyes fixed on some papers, but his expression was harsh. You wanted to see me? Chloe asked, trying to stay calm. Michael looked up. Yes. We need to clear a few things up. She stepped closer, bracing herself for the worst. What's going on? Michael tossed some papers onto the table. These rumors about you speaking to investors at the wedding. What exactly did you say to them? Chloe was stunned. Speaking to investors? I didn't talk to anyone except Stella and a few people who approached me. And what exactly did you discuss? He pressed, his voice laced with suspicion. Chloe felt her blood boil. Discuss? Michael, all I did was act exactly as you asked. I was by your side the whole time, except when Stella wanted to talk to me. He stood, slamming his hands on the table. So it was Stella. Of course she'd try something, and you fell right into her trap. Chloe crossed her arms, incredulous. You're blaming me for something I don't even know happened? You went too far, he said, ignoring her attempts to explain. I trusted you with a simple task, but apparently you can't help but draw more attention than you should. The accusation hit Chloe hard. Are you saying my presence hurt you? You're the one who put me in this position. Michael took a deep breath, trying to maintain control, but his anger seemed to take over. Chloe, I think it's best if we end this here. Consider yourself dismissed. Chloe froze for a moment. Dismissed? Are you firing me? That's right. It's clear our dynamic no longer works. The words were a slap in the face. Chloe felt her pride clash with indignation, but she realized arguing with Michael would be pointless. Fine, if that's your decision, I'll accept it. But know this, Michael, you're making a huge mistake. She turned and walked out of the room with her head held high, but inside she was devastated. It wasn't just about losing the job, it was about the way he treated her, discarding her like she was insignificant. The following days were tough for Chloe. Despite her anger, she knew she needed to bounce back. Without the job, her savings wouldn't last long, but instead of feeling defeated, she decided to use the situation as fuel to turn her life around. Chloe began working on a project she'd long had in mind, sustainable decor. Using recycled materials and her creativity, she created a small collection of pieces that quickly caught attention on social media. Within weeks, her work began to gain visibility, and orders started pouring in. Meanwhile, Michael faced increasing pressure in his company. The insecurity caused by Stella's presence and the rumors from the wedding continued to undermine his credibility. Though he wouldn't admit it, he found himself thinking about Chloe often. There was something about her, the determination he saw in her eyes when she left the room, that he couldn't forget. One morning, while reviewing financial reports, Michael received an email that caught him off guard. It was an article on a design website praising the work of a new entrepreneur, Chloe. He clicked the link and saw photos of her creations. The pieces were innovative, full of personality, and reflected exactly who she was. For a moment, he felt a mix of admiration and unease. Chloe was thriving on her own without relying on anyone, while his own life felt increasingly out of control. That evening, Michael attended a business event, but felt distant. During a conversation, he overheard someone mention Chloe's name again. It was as if, no matter how much he tried, he couldn't escape her influence. He decided he needed to see her. Meanwhile, Chloe was working tirelessly to grow her business. The pain and wounded pride she'd felt after being dismissed by Michael had turned into motivation. She knew she didn't need his validation, or anyone else's, to succeed. But when she heard the sound of a message on her phone, her heart nearly stopped. It was from Michael. Chloe stared at Michael's message for a few seconds, her heart racing. After weeks of silence, there he was, wanting to talk. But why? What did he want, after discarding her so easily? Determined not to let it affect her, Chloe ignored the message and focused back on her work. The small studio she had set up in her living room was beginning to feel too small. Orders for her sustainable decor pieces were growing daily, and she could barely keep up with the demand. It was exhausting, but it also made her feel like she was finally in control of her life. Meanwhile, Michael couldn't concentrate. Chloe had turned down his attempt to reach out, and it bothered him more than he wanted to admit. He tried to justify his growing interest in her as mere curiosity. After all, it wasn't common for someone he fired to leave his orbit and succeed on their own. But there was something more. He couldn't forget the look in her eyes during their last conversation when she stood up to him with such courage and determination. It was a complete contrast to the people around him, always flattering or interested only in what he could offer. Chloe was different, and that intrigued him. Mr. Carter, his assistant said, interrupting his thoughts. The investor you mentioned wants to schedule a meeting. Michael nodded distractedly. Yes, sure. Schedule it for tomorrow. But his mind was still on Chloe. He decided he needed to see her, face to face. Not to apologize, that wasn't something he did easily, but to understand how she had bounced back so quickly. The next morning, Chloe was organizing a new batch of orders when she heard a knock at the door. Her heart raced when she saw Michael on the other side. She took a deep breath before opening it. "What are you doing here?" she asked, crossing her arms. Michael was as impeccable as always, but there was something softer in his expression. "We need to talk, Chloe." She let out a short, humorless laugh. "You've made it clear what you think of me, Michael. I don't see what we have to discuss." "I was wrong," he said, surprising her. "About a lot of things." Chloe raised an eyebrow, skeptical. "Is this an attempt to apologize?" He hesitated but nodded. "In a way, yes. I was impulsive and unfair to you." "Impulsive and unfair?" she repeated, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "You accused me of something I didn't do, humiliated me, and fired me without even listening to me." Michael lowered his gaze, clearly uncomfortable. "I know. I was a jerk." Chloe took a deep breath, trying to stay composed. "Why are you here, Michael? Do you want to hire another pawn for your selfish plans?" He shook his head, frustrated. "No, that's not it. I saw what you're doing, Chloe. Your work. It's amazing. I had to see you and—" "And what?" she interrupted. "Want to take credit for my success now?" Michael stepped back, as if her words had struck him. "No, I just wanted to say I admire what you've done. You got back up even after what I did." The sincerity in his voice disarmed her for a moment. She watched him, trying to understand what he wanted. Michael, the man who always seemed so confident, now stood before her with an expression she had never seen before: vulnerability. "Admiration doesn't change anything, Michael," Chloe said firmly. "I built this on my own, without anyone's help, and you were just an obstacle I had to overcome." He nodded, accepting her words. "I know, but I hope one day you'll forgive me." Chloe didn't respond. She just closed the door, leaving Michael outside. In the following days, Chloe threw herself into her work, trying to forget the encounter with Michael. But no matter how hard she tried, he kept invading her thoughts. The way he seemed genuinely sorry was something she hadn't expected. Michael, on the other hand, was determined to make amends. He started researching more about Chloe's work and realized the positive impact she was having with her creations. Inspired by her, he decided to use his influence to support sustainable projects, something he had never considered before. In a meeting with a group of investors, he presented a proposal to fund small entrepreneurs with innovative ideas. "We need more projects that make a difference," he said, surprising even himself. Meanwhile, Chloe received an unexpected invitation to showcase her work at a local design event. It was her first opportunity to present her creations to a larger audience, and she was nervous but excited. On the night of the event, while arranging her pieces, she felt a familiar presence behind her. She turned around and found Michael. "What are you doing here?" she asked, surprised. "I came to support you," he replied sincerely. "And before you say anything, I'm not here to steal your moment." Chloe crossed her arms, still skeptical. "Why?" "Because I believe in you," he said simply. The words, though unexpected, didn't seem hollow. Chloe watched Michael for a moment, trying to find any sign that he had other intentions. But all she saw was honesty. "You're persistent, Michael," she said finally. "But I still don't know if I can trust you." He gave a small smile. "I don't expect you to trust me. I just hope for a chance to show that I can be better." The event was a success. Chloe received compliments and proposals from new clients, and although reluctant, she couldn't deny that Michael's presence helped draw attention to her work. As the night came to an end, he approached her again. "If you ever need help expanding your business, know that I'm willing to invest," he said. Chloe shook her head. "I don't need your money, Michael. If I ever accept your help, it'll be because I trust you, not because I depend on it." Michael nodded, respecting her decision. "Then I'll work to earn your trust." For the first time, Chloe saw something different in Michael. Maybe, just maybe, he was genuinely changing. The showcase was a milestone in Chloe's life, not just because of the opportunities it brought, but also because it was the first time she felt the impact of her work beyond social media. Yet Michael's unexpected support still left her confused. She tried not to think about him, but somehow he seemed determined to be part of her journey again. In the following days, Chloe was busy with new orders and invitations to collaborate with local designers. Still, the encounter with Michael at the event lingered in her mind. He had shown a kindness she'd never seen before. But she knew that, with Michael, kindness alone wasn't enough to erase the past. While working on a new collection, her phone rang. It was an unknown number, but she answered anyway. Hello? Chloe? This is Sarah from Urban Deco Designs. We'd like to invite you to lead a project in collaboration with a high-profile company. Your work is exactly what we're looking for. Chloe could hardly believe it. Urban Deco Designs was one of the top sustainable design firms, known for partnerships with major brands. I'd love to. Which company is it? It's Carter Enterprises. The name made her heart stop for a moment. Of course it was. The irony was almost cruel. I need to think about it, she replied, trying to sound professional. We understand, but this could be a great opportunity for you to expand your reach. Please consider it and let me know by tomorrow. Chloe hung up, trying to process the situation. Working with Michael meant facing everything she was trying to move past. But the opportunity was too big to ignore. The next morning, Chloe made her decision and sent Sarah a message confirming her participation. A few hours later, she received project details and a request for a meeting at Carter Enterprises headquarters. When she arrived at the towering building, she felt a mix of nerves and determination. She wasn't there to rekindle personal ties. She was there as a professional. She took the elevator, heart racing, and was greeted by an assistant who led her to the meeting room. As soon as she walked in, she saw Michael. He was standing by a table covered with reports, but his gaze went straight to Chloe. For a moment, he looked surprised, but then he smiled. Welcome, Chloe. She maintained her composure. I'm here for the project, Michael. Let's keep it focused on that. He nodded, seeming to respect the boundary she set. Of course. I want you to see this as a partnership. Your ideas will be critical. The meeting proceeded objectively. Michael presented the project. A sustainable corporate building designed to minimize environmental impact. Chloe took notes, keeping the interaction professional, though she noticed Michael went out of his way to highlight her input, something he'd never done before. After the meeting, he walked her to the exit. Thank you for agreeing to work with us, he said with genuine sincerity. I'm here because the project matters, Chloe replied. But that doesn't change the past. Michael sighed, seeming to understand. I know, but I hope that in time we can start fresh. Chloe didn't respond. She simply nodded and left, determined to keep her focus on the work. In the days that followed, Chloe threw herself into the project. She led the creative team with determination, and her dedication didn't go unnoticed. Her interactions with Michael were frequent but strictly professional. He seemed different, more collaborative, less domineering. One day, during a meeting, Chloe presented a bold idea for the interior design. One of the investors raised a concern. This seems risky. Why should we trust this approach? Before Chloe could answer, Michael stepped in. Because I trust her work. Chloe has the experience and vision. If she believes this is the best direction for the project, I support it. Michael's public endorsement caught Chloe off guard, but she didn't show it. She calmly continued explaining her proposal, eventually winning the investor's approval. After the meeting, she confronted Michael. Why did you do that? Because it was the right thing to do, he replied, as if it were obvious. And since when do you care about what's right? Chloe retorted, with a challenging tone. Michael gave a small smile. Since I realized I was wrong about a lot of things. Chloe didn't know how to respond. His sincerity was disconcerting. As the project progressed, their interactions began to change. Michael was more open, and Chloe, though reluctant, started to see a side of him she never imagined existed. He surprised her with small gestures, like bringing coffee to meetings or praising her work in front of the team. One afternoon, after a long day of work, Michael invited her to dinner. Nothing professional, he said, noticing her hesitation. Just a conversation between two people. Chloe thought for a moment before accepting. At the restaurant, the conversation was relaxed. Michael talked about his childhood, his challenges in taking over the company, and even his regrets, something Chloe never expected to hear. I always thought success was everything, he said thoughtfully. But lately, I've realized it might not be enough. Success means nothing if you have no one to share it with. Chloe replied without thinking. Michael looked at her, surprised by the depth of her words. You're right. The exchange of looks between them was intense, but Chloe looked away, trying to keep her emotional distance. it was still too early to let her guard down. The next day, Chloe was surprised by some news. One of her decor pieces used in the project had been featured in a design magazine. Michael made sure to praise her publicly, further increasing her visibility. However, Chloe realized that despite the progress, something still prevented her from fully trusting Michael. His change seemed real, but part of her still wondered if it was just another calculated facade. As the project advanced, Chloe knew the biggest challenge was yet to come, deciding if Michael truly deserved a second chance. Chloe stood at the center of the conference room, presenting the progress of her ideas for the sustainable building. The project had advanced remarkably, and the confidence she had earned from the team and investors was evident. Every detail she proposed was met with praise, and even those who initially underestimated her were convinced of her vision. Michael, sitting at the head of the table, watched her silently. He rarely interfered in Chloe's presentations now, but he made sure to show support. His eyes were fixed on her, but not just for her professionalism. There was something more. When the meeting ended, Chloe felt Michael's familiar presence approaching. "You're doing an amazing job," he said as they walked down the hallway. "Thank you," she replied, keeping her tone neutral. Michael hesitated before continuing. "You know, I've been thinking a lot about what you said that night, about success and who you share it with." Chloe stopped, turning to face him. "Michael, I'm here to work. Don't mix things up." He shook his head, as if trying to control something he really wanted to say. "Right, but someday, maybe you'll understand what I'm trying to show." Chloe didn't respond. She just walked away, ignoring the strange feeling his words provoked. As the project neared its final stage, Chloe started to notice something unusual in the financial reports. Some budget decisions seemed contradictory to the sustainability message Michael emphasized so much. It wasn't something she could ignore. That same afternoon, she went directly to his office. "Michael, can we talk?" He looked up from his computer, surprised by her direct tone. "Sure. What's going on?" Chloe placed the papers on his desk. "These numbers don't make sense. How can we talk about sustainability when we're cutting essential costs for it?" Michael took the reports and reviewed them in silence. "I'll check this with the finance department," he said, but Chloe sensed hesitation in his voice. "You knew about this, didn't you?" she asked, her voice full of frustration. He put down the papers and took a deep breath. "It wasn't an easy decision, Chloe, but we need to balance the budget." Chloe stared at him, incredulous. "You're sacrificing the integrity of the project to please investors?" "It's not that simple," Michael replied, looking uncomfortable. "I have responsibilities." "And I have principles," Chloe retorted firmly. "If you don't believe in what you're doing, then this project will never be genuine." Michael remained silent, visibly shaken by her words. That night, Chloe decided she needed answers. Michael had always been a complicated man, but there was something deeper about his behavior recently. She started looking into the background of some companies involved in the project and found that most had long-standing ties to Michael and his father. The next day, she confronted him again. "Michael, why are you so invested in this project? It's not just about sustainability, is it?" He looked away, as if trying to avoid the question. "It doesn't matter now." "It does," Chloe insisted. "If you want my trust, you need to be honest with me." Michael finally relented, closing his eyes for a moment before speaking. "This project is a way to make up for what my father did. He always prioritized profit above everything else, and it hurt a lot of people. I grew up thinking that was the only way, but I don't want to repeat his mistakes." Chloe listened in silence, absorbing his words. For the first time, she saw Michael as someone vulnerable, someone battling his own past. "Then do things differently," she finally said. "Show that you can be better." In the days that followed, Michael took steps to adjust the budget, even though he knew it might deter some investors. Chloe noticed he was genuinely trying to change, but there was still a barrier she couldn't break through. "Let's have a little fun with the readers in the comments. Type milkshake if you've made it this far." Now, let's get back to the story. As they worked together, the two began sharing more than just project ideas. Chloe opened up about her humble childhood, the challenges of supporting her family, and her dream of using her creativity to make a meaningful impact. Michael, in turn, spoke about the pressure of growing up in his father's shadow, the failure of his relationship with Stella, and how meeting Chloe had shifted his perspective on many things. "You made me realize that success means nothing if you lose the people who truly matter," he admitted during a break from work. Chloe's heart raced, but she kept her expression neutral. "Michael, change takes time. It's not enough to say you'll be different. You have to prove it." He nodded. "And I will." At an event to showcase the project's progress, Chloe was approached by Stella, who seemed to attend every opportunity to cross paths with Michael. "Looks like you've gained more than just a job," Stella said with a sly smile. Chloe took a deep breath, staying calm. "I've worked hard to earn my place, Stella. Maybe you should try doing the same." Stella laughed, as if Chloe's response amused her. Michael can be charming when he wants to be, but in the end, he always reverts to what he is, a man driven by his ego. Good luck trying to change that. Chloe didn't respond, but Stella's words unsettled her. No matter how much effort Michael was making, doubts lingered. Those doubts deepened when he approached her shortly afterward, concern in his eyes. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Stella has a special talent for being unpleasant," Chloe replied, trying to play it off. Michael sighed. "Don't let her get to you. She's always looking for ways to hurt me, and now she thinks targeting you is the way to do it." "And why?" Chloe challenged, locking eyes with him. "Why does she think I'm important to you?" Michael was silent for a moment before answering. "Because you are." The words were simple but carried weight. Chloe didn't know what to say. Michael seemed intent on making his feelings clear, but she wasn't ready to trust him yet. In the following days, Chloe focused on her work, but Michael's words stayed with her. He had been clear. She was important to him. While his intentions seemed genuine, Chloe knew she couldn't rely on words alone. She wanted to believe him, but her instincts kept her cautious. As the project progressed, a major presentation event was scheduled to bring together investors, partners, and industry leaders. It was a crucial moment to solidify Chloe's hard work and secure the financial backing needed for the final phase. She prepared meticulously, knowing the night would be pivotal. Michael, meanwhile, was closer than ever. He not only trusted her decisions, but also supported her in every detail. At times, Chloe caught him looking at her during meetings, but she avoided addressing it. Their balance was delicate, and Chloe knew that one wrong step could destabilize everything. On the night of the event, Chloe arrived at the stunning venue in a simple yet elegant dress that reflected her personality. The guests were excited to see the presentation, and she struggled to stay calm as she mentally reviewed the details. Michael arrived shortly after, impeccably dressed as always, but with a more relaxed demeanor than usual. He approached Chloe as soon as he saw her. "You look amazing," he said, in a tone that seemed to slip from his usual composure. "Thank you," she replied, trying to keep the conversation casual. Before they could continue, Stella appeared, with a smile that barely hid her intent to provoke. "Chloe, what a pleasant surprise," she said as her eyes scanned the room. "It seems you've really found your place here." "I worked hard for it," Chloe replied, refusing to be intimidated. Stella turned to Michael. "And you, Michael? Still trying to prove something to me?" Michael stayed calm, but his tone was firm. "Stella, I have nothing to prove to you, and Chloe doesn't need your approval to be here." Chloe watched the exchange with a mix of satisfaction and discomfort. Michael had taken her side publicly, but the confrontation with Stella seemed to rekindle old wounds. As the event progressed, Chloe presented her vision for the final phase of the project. The room fell silent as she explained how every detail was designed to reflect the values of sustainability and innovation. When she finished, the audience erupted in applause. Michael was the first to stand, followed by the investors and partners. Chloe felt a surge of pride, but she also knew the night was far from over. During the cocktail hour following the presentation, Stella once again tried to steal the spotlight. This time, however, she approached one of the investors and began making insinuations about Michael's past. "He's always been good at charming people, but commitment has never been his strong suit," she said, in a casual tone but loud enough for Chloe to hear. Chloe decided not to intervene. She knew Michael didn't need her defense, but Stella's words seemed to plant doubt in the minds of some investors. Shortly after, one of the men approached Michael. "Carter, it seems like you're changing your approach. The public support for Chloe was impressive, but considering your history, is this really sincere?" Michael narrowed his eyes, clearly irritated. "My support for Chloe is based on her talent and work. If that's not enough to convince you, maybe it's time to reconsider our partnerships." Michael's firm tone silenced the man, but Chloe, watching from a distance, saw that it had affected Michael more than he let on. When the night ended, Chloe found Michael outside, looking at the horizon with a tired expression. "It was an intense night," she said, approaching. "That's an understatement," he replied with a small smile. "You were amazing." "Thank you. But what Stella said didn't help at all." Michael sighed, his shoulders heavy. "Stella knows how to hit where it hurts. She can't stand the idea that I'm trying to change." Chloe hesitated before responding. "And are you?" Michael looked at her, his expression serious. "I am, but not for her." There was a moment of silence between them before Michael continued. "Chloe, when I fired you, I thought I was protecting myself. But all I did was push away the only person who made me question who I really was. You showed me that there's a different way." His words were full of emotion, and Chloe felt her own barriers begin to weaken. "Michael, change isn't just about words, it's about actions." "Then let me show you," he said, his voice firm. Chloe didn't respond immediately. Part of her wanted to believe him, but another part was still stuck in the past. "We'll see," she said finally. In the days that followed, the atmosphere at the company changed. Michael started implementing bolder measures, like partnerships with sustainable organizations and cutting ties with suppliers that didn't align with the project's values. Chloe saw that he was indeed trying to turn his words into actions. One afternoon, while they were reviewing the final details of the presentation, Michael did something that caught her by surprise. "Chloe, I need you to know that, no matter what happens between us, this project was only possible because of you." She looked at him, trying to find any hint of insincerity in his words, but found none. "Thank you," she replied, genuinely. Michael hesitated before continuing. "I know there's still a lot I need to prove to you, but if you'll let me, I want to try." Chloe knew Michael's intentions seemed genuine, but something still held her back. Maybe it was the fear of getting hurt again, or maybe it was just caution. The final days of the project were a mix of excitement and exhaustion for Chloe. She had dedicated months to the work, but now, with the launch approaching, she realized it wasn't just a professional milestone, it was a personal turning point. Michael had changed, or at least he seemed to have. Yet, Chloe wasn't sure she was ready to trust him again. The launch was set to be a grand event, covered by the media and attended by international investors and key industry figures. As usual, Michael took on the role of host, but he insisted Chloe be by his side. "You're the soul of this project," he said during one of their final meetings. "I want everyone to know that." Chloe agreed, but with one condition. "As long as it's clear my role here was earned on merit. I'm not here to be associated with your past or your mistakes." Michael nodded, understanding her resolve. "Agreed. You've earned this entirely on your own." On the morning of the event, Chloe arrived early to check the final details. The building looked flawless, reflecting everything she had envisioned: elegance, functionality, and sustainability. As she walked through the halls, she felt a mix of pride and anxiety. Michael arrived shortly after, dressed impeccably in a suit. He seemed confident, but there was something else in his expression, a hint of vulnerability Chloe couldn't ignore. "Nervous?" he asked as he approached. "A little," she admitted. "And you?" "Always," he replied with a smile. "But having you here makes it easier." Chloe looked away, trying to avoid the weight of his words. There was something different about Michael that day, a lightness she hadn't seen before. The event began with speeches and presentations highlighting the project's innovative aspects. Chloe was invited to the stage to share her vision and how she had turned ideas into reality. She was nervous, but as she glanced at the audience, she saw Michael in the front row, his face filled with genuine pride. "This project isn't just about sustainability," she said, concluding her speech. "It's about showing that when we work together and believe in the impact we can make, we can create something truly meaningful." The audience erupted in applause, but it was Michael's gaze that stayed with her. After the presentations, a reception was held, and Chloe found herself surrounded by people eager to learn more about her work. She answered every question with patience, but her attention kept drifting to Michael, who was across the room speaking with a group of investors. When she finally had a moment alone, Stella appeared, as usual, at the least convenient time. "Well, Chloe, it seems you've managed to impress. Congratulations." "Thank you," Chloe replied, keeping her composure. "But tell me, do you really think Michael has changed? Or is he still playing the same game?" Chloe didn't answer right away. There was something calculated about Stella's tone, as if she wanted to sow doubt. "It's not your judgment that matters," Chloe said at last. "It's mine." Stella gave a quiet laugh but didn't reply. She simply walked away, leaving Chloe alone with her thoughts. Shortly after, Michael approached her. "Stella's trying to poison your thoughts again, isn't she?" Chloe sighed. "It's not that. She just made me realize I still have doubts." Michael was silent for a moment before responding. "I understand. And honestly, I'd have doubts too if I were in your place." Chloe looked at him, surprised by his honesty. "Have you really changed, Michael? Or is this just another attempt to manipulate everything around you?" "I have changed," he said firmly. "But I don't expect you to believe me just because I say so. I want to prove it over time." Chloe didn't reply, instead looking away as she tried to sort through her feelings. The evening continued, but Chloe's discomfort grew. There was something she couldn't quite define, a knot in her chest that refused to loosen. When the event ended, Michael walked her to the exit. "Thank you for everything, Chloe," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "This project wouldn't have been possible without you." She nodded, but his words didn't ease her concerns. "It was good work, Michael. But that doesn't mean everything's resolved." He smiled, though there was a touch of sadness in his eyes. "I know." In the days that followed, Chloe tried to return to her routine, but she couldn't stop thinking about Michael. He was keeping his promises. His actions showed he was trying to be better. But Chloe still struggled with the fear of letting herself believe. One morning, Chloe received an unexpected message from Michael. "I want you to see something. Can you come to the building today?" Chloe hesitated before responding, but her curiosity won. When she arrived, Michael greeted her in the lobby. He seemed nervous, something rare to see. "What do you want to show me?" she asked, crossing her arms. "Come with me," he said, leading her to the building's terrace. When they arrived, Chloe was speechless. The space had been transformed into a lush garden, with native plants and a relaxation area that looked like something out of a dream. "I wanted this project to have something special," Michael explained. "Something that represents what I've learned working with you." Chloe turned to him, still absorbing what she saw. "This is amazing, Michael." "Thank you, but this isn't just about the project, it's about you." Chloe felt her heart race. "Michael, I know I still have a long way to go," he said, interrupting her. "But I want to walk this path with you, if you'll let me." His words were direct, without the calculated tone she feared. Chloe took a deep breath, feeling her internal barriers begin to crumble. "Maybe I can give it a chance," she said finally. "But that doesn't mean it will be easy." Michael smiled, a genuine smile full of hope. "Nothing worthwhile is easy, Chloe." The partnership between Chloe and Michael seemed stronger than ever, but Chloe remained cautious. That moment on the terrace had been symbolic, but she knew trust couldn't be rebuilt in a single day. Michael, on the other hand, seemed determined to show that his transformation was genuine. The following weeks were intense. The project was gaining more recognition, and Chloe was constantly invited to events, interviews, and new partnerships. Michael made sure that all the credit went to her, highlighting her talent and dedication whenever he had the chance. However, something still bothered her. Michael was trying too hard, as if he were trying to make up for years of mistakes in just a few weeks. Chloe didn't know if this was due to genuine regret or just an attempt to impress her. One day, Michael asked Chloe to accompany him to a meeting with new investors. "I don't want to present anything without you," he said. Chloe hesitated but agreed. The meeting took place in an elegant restaurant, and the investors were influential people interested in supporting more sustainable projects. Chloe presented her ideas confidently, while Michael watched her with admiration. When the meeting ended, one of the investors made a comment that caught Chloe by surprise. "Michael, you've found a real gem. I don't see this passion and authenticity often." Michael smiled. "Yes, she's unique." The compliment was genuine, but Chloe couldn't help feeling uncomfortable. She didn't want to be seen as Michael's discovery, but as someone who had built her own path. Later, when they were in the car, Chloe finally spoke. "Michael, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I want to make something clear. My work and my achievements aren't tied to you." Michael seemed surprised but quickly nodded. "I understand, and I'll make sure everyone knows that." Chloe noticed he was taking her comments seriously, which made her feel more at ease. As they focused on wrapping up the project, an unexpected problem arose. One of the main suppliers was delaying the delivery of materials, putting the opening of a new phase of the building at risk. Michael, determined to solve the issue, called an emergency meeting with the whole team. "We can't let this compromise our deadline," he said firmly. "Chloe, any ideas on how to get around this?" Chloe analyzed the reports and suggested an alternative solution involving a smaller, more reliable local supplier. "It might not be the cheapest option, but it's the most efficient." Michael didn't hesitate. "Make it happen. We'll deal with the additional cost later." The decision was risky, but showed that Michael was prioritizing the quality and values of the project over profits, something Chloe noticed with admiration. After the crisis, Chloe began to see a more consistent change in Michael. He was less concerned with his public image and more focused on ensuring the project's success. Small gestures also demonstrated his transformation. Sincere compliments to the team, ethical decisions, and even moments when he admitted his own mistakes. One evening, while they were reviewing the final details of the project, Michael made a confession. "Working with you has made me realize something important." Chloe looked at him, curious. "What?" "I spent years trying to meet everyone else's expectations, my father's, my investors, even Stella's. But you never expected anything from me. You just wanted me to be honest with myself." Chloe remained silent, absorbing his words. "And are you being honest now?" Michael nodded with a small smile. "For the first time, I think I am." The final inauguration of the project was marked by an event that brought together influential figures from various sectors. Chloe and Michael stood side by side, receiving compliments and praise for their work. The night felt perfect, but Chloe couldn't shake the feeling that something was unresolved. In the middle of the event, Michael pulled her aside to a quieter corner. "Chloe, there's something I've been rehearsing to tell you for days." She looked at him, puzzled. "What is it?" Michael took a deep breath before speaking. "I don't know where I'd be without you. This project, my growth, it all started because you came into my life and made me see the world differently." Chloe felt her heart race. "Michael, I know I still need to earn your trust," he interrupted. "But more than that, I want you to know how much I admire you. Not just as a professional, but as a person." Chloe was speechless. His words felt sincere, but she still wasn't sure if she was ready to let go of her mistrust. When the event ended, Michael walked her to her car. "Thank you for standing by my side tonight," he said. Chloe smiled, a shy but meaningful smile. "You're doing well, Michael, but it's not over yet." He chuckled softly. "I know." As the car drove away, Chloe glanced at Michael's reflection in the window and realized he truly was trying to change. For the first time, she felt that maybe she could believe in him. In the days that followed, Michael continued to surprise her. He got involved in social projects, supported young entrepreneurs, and funded sustainable initiatives. Chloe could see he was doing it out of genuine belief, not just to impress her. One afternoon, while working in her studio, she received a message from Michael. "Come to the building. I want to show you something." When she arrived, she found Michael on the rooftop. He had installed a mural featuring images and stories of people whose lives had been positively impacted by the project. "I thought this would be a good way to remember why we started this," he explained. Chloe's eyes welled up. "It's amazing, Michael." He looked at her with a sincere smile. "Just like you." As Chloe gazed at the mural, she realized she might finally be ready to trust him again. The days following the project's final event were a mix of calm and reflection for Chloe. The building was officially operational, earning praise from experts in architecture and sustainable design. Her name was now recognized not only locally, but also internationally, something she'd never imagined possible. Michael, on the other hand, seemed more distant. He was focused on new projects and busy with meetings to expand his business. Yet Chloe knew he was intentionally giving her space to make her own decisions. While working in her studio, Chloe received an unexpected invitation to speak at an international conference on sustainable design. The opportunity was too significant to pass up, but it meant being away for a few weeks. Before confirming her attendance, she decided to talk to Michael. She walked through the reception of Carter Enterprises and went straight to his office. He seemed surprised to see her. "Chloe, what a surprise. Is everything okay?" "Yes," she replied. "But I wanted to tell you something before making a decision." Michael set his papers aside and gestured for her to continue. "What's on your mind?" "I've been invited to an international conference. It's a chance to expand my brand, but I'll be away for a few weeks." Michael watched her silently for a moment before smiling. "That's amazing, Chloe. You should go." Chloe felt a wave of relief at his response. "Thank you. I just thought you'd want to know first." Michael nodded. "I want you to know I'm rooting for you. Always." The sincerity in his voice caught her off guard. Chloe felt a strange warmth in her chest, but kept it to herself. The trip was a milestone in Chloe's career. She met renowned professionals, shared her story, and was invited to collaborate with companies from other countries. As she spoke about her projects, she realized that, even from afar, Michael's lessons on leadership and vision were present in everything she did. Let's play a game with those who only read the comments. Type pizza in the comments. Only those who made it this far will understand. Now, let's continue with the story. But despite the success, there was a void she couldn't ignore. During silent nights in her hotel room, she thought about Michael. His words, his actions, and even the way he looked at her seemed to always be on her mind. When she returned to the city, Chloe decided to go straight to the Carter Enterprises building. It was late, but she knew Michael would probably still be there. When she walked into his office, she found him alone, going over reports. Michael looked up from the papers and smiled, surprised. "Chloe, I didn't know you'd be back today." "I just got here," she said, closing the door behind her, "but I needed to see you." He stood up immediately, concerned. "Is something wrong?" "Yes," Chloe replied, her voice slightly trembling. "I realized something important while I was away." Michael stayed silent, watching her intently. There was something in his eyes that seemed vulnerable, as if he knew this moment was crucial. "What is it?" Chloe took a few steps toward him, trying to find the right words. "During this trip, I realized how much you've changed, Michael. I realized that you're no longer the arrogant and distant man I met. And I realized that, no matter how much I tried to fight it, I fell in love with you." The words came out quickly, as if they had waited too long to be said. Michael stood still for a few seconds, as if processing, but then he took a step forward, closing the distance between them. "Chloe, you have no idea how long I've waited to hear that," he said, his voice husky with emotion. She tried to speak, but he continued, gently holding her hands. "I fell in love with you a long time ago. Since you came into my life, everything changed. You made me want to be a better person, made me see that what I was building before had no meaning if it wasn't for something greater." Chloe felt her eyes fill with tears, but she didn't look away. "Michael, I was afraid to trust, to open up, to get hurt again. But now, I don't want to run anymore." Without saying another word, Michael leaned in and kissed her. It was a kiss full of emotion, as if they were putting everything they had held back for so long into it. When they finally pulled away, he smiled at her. "Chloe, you've transformed me. Not just as a businessman, but as a person. I want to walk by your side, not just today, but always. Will you be my girlfriend?" Chloe laughed, still emotional, and held his face with her hands. "Yes, Michael, I will." In the months that followed, Chloe and Michael began to build something they never imagined. A relationship based on trust, respect, and love. Michael continued to surprise her with small gestures of affection, while Chloe learned to trust him completely. Together, they started to dream big. Chloe expanded her brand, while Michael delved into social projects and sustainable initiatives, inspired by the values she brought into his life. On a special night, during the opening of a new space they had designed together, Michael held Chloe's hand as the crowd applauded them. He looked into her eyes and, with an emotional smile, said, "Chloe, you've changed my life in so many ways. I want to build more than just projects with you. I want to build a life." Before she could respond, he knelt down, opening a small box with a simple but elegant ring. "Will you marry me?" Tears filled Chloe's eyes, but she didn't hesitate. "Yes, Michael. Yes!" The wedding was quiet, full of meaning, and surrounded only by their closest friends and family. For Chloe and Michael, it wasn't just the start of a new phase, but confirmation that true love can be born from the most unexpected places. As they watched the horizon on their honeymoon, hand in hand, Chloe felt a peace she had never experienced. She knew the future would bring challenges, but she was ready to face them alongside she had learned to love and trust. Do you think Chloe was right to forgive and marry Michael?
We'd love to hear if you're excited about this story. If you had a good time watching the video, go ahead and press 1. If that's not the case, just press 0. Your feedback truly motivates me to collect more heartwarming and significant stories. I'm going to turn this one over to you. What do you make of this situation? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, support, and time mean the world to me,